Alrighty, so I'm back home. After spending a couple of days in Minnesota, I'm back home and just landed a couple of hours ago in the Bay Area. And I gotta say, since I've been to Minnesota so many times in these last couple of years, I'm starting to get a real connection for the state and even in the Twin City as well. But nevertheless, this was definitely probably one of the most enjoyable experience of me going to Minnesota, not only to be able to go with my good old friend James, but also go to the game itself, where, we'll definitely talk about the game in just a bit, where I definitely enjoyed it. Not so much of him. He probably definitely did not enjoy the game whatsoever. But nevertheless, in terms of the action that I missed, and it's a shame the fact that I missed most of the action because this week there was a lot of goals that once again was scored this week, and there were a lot of crazy games that also happened as well. So let us actually first talk about the first of 8 games because we're going to be doing a two-part review once again. In this part, we're going to look at the first 8 games. These are pretty much going to be the Saturday matinee game and the 7:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff, and then tomorrow we'll look at the remaining game and including that fun Sunday night soccer game that happened today. And yes, I say fun Sunday night soccer game because there's been a lot of stinkers in terms of Sunday night soccer game. This week was definitely not one of them. But like I said, let's begin talk about the first game, which is Chicago versus Atlanta United. So you just kind of had a feeling coming into this game, someone's going to eventually end their winless run, and that, as I mentioned, is kind of a desperation derby for both of these teams to try to get a win to end their winless run. And in the end, it's Chicago the one that ended their winless run, and also most importantly, finally getting their first home win of the season. Now, early on, the first shot of the game, C. Gutman puts it over from close range, but then a penalty was given to Chicago as Marenchuk handballed this one in the box. So this allowed Hugo Kuipers to score from the penalty spot. He usually doesn't miss from the spot, and he doesn't here, so he buries that to give the Fire a 1-0 lead. But besides that, there wasn't really much chances, at least in the first 20 minutes. I know I said before that this was a relatively entertaining kind of week with a lot of goals that were being scored. We'll definitely get to more of those games, but yeah, at least early on, not really much to speak of. Guzan would then deny Oriel from close before Gutierrez just puts it wide from long range, as Chicago were looking to try to get for more, and Atlanta already looked like they're going through the motion. I mean, there's a reason why this team has gone for a long winless run, and it feels like, yeah, they're going to get absolutely destroyed by the Fire, aren't they? But the first shot for Atlanta did see Hernandez puts it wide before Morenchik hits it right to goal in the 33rd minute. So slowly Atlanta started to get into this game. But Guzan did deny Kuipers on the free kick, as this one actually kind of bounced off the wall on the free kick and fall kindly to Hugo Kuipers there. So a little fortunate bounce there that go the far way, but Guzan making sure that that was not a goal. Goodman then puts it wide from long range for Elliott, which heads it wide from close range. As up to this point, it was pretty much mostly Chicago here as they press hard to try to get that second goal. But we do head to halftime with the Fire leading 1-0. In the second half, Kuipers would slice it wide from close before Almiron would put it wide from close range. Gutierrez would roll one right to Guzan, and on the other end, Almiron would put it wide from close range. So yeah, both of these teams were definitely exchanging some chances. There was some end-to-end action, at least in the first couple of minutes, looking for that next crucial goal in this game. Though that end-to-end action didn't last for long because we then go for a period where not much really happened. It feels like the Fire was comfortable trying to see out this 1-0 win, but in the 80th minute, they gave up a goal. And this feels like it's a very certified Fire moment. A game where they pretty much dominate throughout this game. They haven't given Atlanta a lot of sniff, and look like they're on their way of an easy 3 points. And then they do this. Scoring an own goal here, and very unfortunate own goal there from Sam Rogers. And just like that, the game was tied up at one apiece. And if you're a Fire fan, instantly you're thinking, oh boy, here we go again. We've seen this story so many times. A win let it slip out of the hand because of some boneheaded player, or just luck definitely had not been on their side. However, in the 82nd minute, Guzan would deny Haile Selassie from close before Kuipers would hit one right to Guzan. And if there's one thing you want to know about Greg Berhalter's Chicago Fire side is that, well, yes, they do still have some growing pains that is there with this team. There are definitely something that we usually do not see from past Fire team, and that, of course, is they don't just simply create it. They were pressing hard to try to get the lead, and they were rewarded by that because in the 86th minute, Kulanami would score from Glasgow and Haile Selassie to give the Fire a 2-1 lead. Though late in this game, Williams almost looked to steal a point for Atlanta, but he was denied by the Post. So for once, the Post kind of came to the rescue for the Fire, and the Fire kind of getting some luck back in this game. But yeah, just like that, the Fire gets a much needed 2-1 win in this one. Like I said, they not only end their winless run, but also getting their first home win of the season. The shots in this one, 18 shots for the 12 that Atlanta has, 8 shots on goal for the 2 that Atlanta has, 6 shots off target for the 4 that Atlanta has, 4 shots on blocked for the 5 that Atlanta has, and both teams have 50% possession. And yeah, for Atlanta, yeah, it's been that kind of season. And also, you notice how I didn't even mention Latte Laughney in this game. He's been a ghost in the last couple of games, and I'm also still trying to work on in terms of maybe talk about this Atlanta United team because as I'll talk about even throughout this review, I think I need to make a video of a certain team once again of reaching a historic moment that is definitely not a moment that any team wants to reach in later of this review. But that Atlanta video of me talk about this team and what has just gone terribly wrong for this team is definitely be coming soon. And it's not easy for me to make those videos because I know there's going to be a midweek action and basically with these reviews. Once I've done, especially tomorrow, Tuesday, I'm gonna have to do the preview once again for those midweek action, and I'm gonna have to do the review, and then once again do a midweek or a review for the weekend action relatively quickly as well. That's what happened when you have 3 games in 7 days. But anyway, moving on in terms of the next match is Toronto and DC United. So this was probably the best performance that TFC had put this season, and it's not even been close. I mean, this team has really struggled when it comes to going forward and creating chances. But yeah, they definitely didn't have an issue in this game against DC. Now, keep in mind, it is DC. This is the team that is considered to be one of the worst defensive team in the league, and I also think that after this game if DC fans are not concerned about this team before, maybe if DC fans were thinking they might have turned the corner after these last couple of games where they played relatively well under Troy Lesane getting a couple of wins, yeah, it's gone back the wrong way after this game against TFC. Now, early on, Barraza would deny Corbino from long range as Toronto was definitely on the front foot and looked to try to get the early goal to not only end this goal drop but get a much needed win. But I've said this before with TFC where they seems to get off to a good start, but it just feels like it's kind of a mirage. It wasn't a mirage in this game. The post would then deny Flores on the volley, and then on the rebound, Bernardeschi would puts this one wide. Corbino would then hits it right to Barraza before he denied Insigne, and on the rebound, Bring Hansen almost puts this one away, but he puts this one over. And again, it was all Toronto up to this point. And I would also say that that moment kind of also sums up the season for this TFC side because it just feel like no matter what kind of chances that they put, even when they generate chances, they just simply cannot buy a goal up to this point. Flores would then puts it high from close range before he missed again in the near post just 3 minutes later. The shots were 13-0 for TFC up to this point. Yeah, 13-0 in favor of TFC. TFC was all over DC in this one. It clearly feels like DC just did not show up whatsoever in this first half. Insigne then hits it right to Barraza before the first shot for DC came in the 45th minute, or check that, the second minute of stoppage time. So really the 47th minute that is. But yeah, it saw Schleg puts it over from long range, and we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams, despite the fact that yeah, TFC would feel like yeah they absolutely should have scored one goal with the way with the dominance that they have, and you just kind of had a sense this is just going to be another one of those days where they're not going to score. Well, the answer is no, because just 3 minutes later, they finally got that much needed goal. And of all players that I thought would end this goal round, of all players that I thought could score on a header, I would have not thought Lorenzo Insigne would be the guy to do so. But here we are. He scored from Corbino to make it 1-0 in favor of TFC. And again, Insigne, kind of a 5 foot free player. He's not known for his header, but this was kind of one that was so low to the ground where his kind of work an advantage with him trying to head this one low on the ground, but he heads this one to get TFC a 1-0 lead and finally ending a bit of a goal drought that this TFC side have been during the last couple of games. Schleg did look to respond, but he was denied by Johnson, and then he denied Benteke from close range, as I thought it was a good response for DC. They finally started to woke up in this game and realized, yeah, losing to TFC, that is absolutely acceptable, especially of how poor TFC have looked in the last couple of games. Brahinson then hits one right to Barraza before Bernadeschi puts it wide from close range, and all of a sudden, momentum was back with TFC. They were looking to press to try to get that 2-goal lead, and they did exactly that. And they can thank Lucas Bartlett scoring an own goal here. To be fair, this was all on Insigne. This was definitely one of the better games that Insigne has, just to prove that even when he kind of half care about this team, if he put a low effort, he can definitely help this TFC side because he put a dangerous cross in. Bartlett, as a defender, when you're facing in front of your goal and trying to cut it out, that is always a very dangerous thing to do, and you kind of call it no man's land because we've seen so many times when defenders stuck their leg out to try to poke that one behind for a corner. It doesn't work out. So yeah, it didn't work out in this one. He puts it into his own net, and just like that, TFC has a 2-0 lead. Let me drink some of this little sparkling soda that I have. But yeah, it's a 2-0 lead for Toronto. If I'm not mistaken, this is probably his first time this season that Toronto actually scored 2 goals in a game. Benteke then hits it wide from close before he does the same thing just a couple of minutes later. And then Johnson would deny layout from close as once again, DC did a good response to try to get one back in this one, and you just kind of had a sense maybe TFC might put their foot off the gas a little bit because they were being a little bit too complacent up to this point. Corbino would then hits it right to Barraza before Johnson absolutely robbed Benteke from a point blank effort. I mean, Sean Johnson was definitely feeling like his old self in this one, making some big save after big save for TFC in this one. And I also felt that it's now DC turn to feel like that they just simply cannot buy a goal in this one, and partially because it feels like Johnson was on it in this game. I mean, he's been very inconsistent this season, but I think TFC fans wouldn't care because as long as he's inconsistent and for the most part pretty good this season as well. I mean, he has had some bad moments, but for the most part, thought Sean Johnson has been up for the task, but he was definitely up for the task in this one because in the end Toronto, they get only their second win of the season, and as I said, I think this is the first time that they score more than one goal this year with a 2-0 victory. The shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 15 that DC has. That is by far the most shots that TFC has put in the season, and I don't think it's even close. 9 shots on goal compared to 5 that DC had. 5 shots off target compared to 3 that DC had. Both teams had 5 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that TFC has in this game. And while I know both of these teams are probably not going to do much for the rest of the season, I think this is just kind of almost a moral victory for TFC in this one. These kind of wins can at least build some confidence in a team that we know that this season this team is not going to have a lot of confidence. They're not going to win a lot of games, but it's all about trying to at least work hard and trying to get this rebuild toward the right direction. And so far, it's been kind of slow, and it also doesn't help the fact that the fan base have already been very fed up with this deep rebuild. There's been like banners that's been released by the supporter group about the state of the club. But nevertheless, these kind of moral victory that can definitely be a way to gain some trust from the fans back. But maybe them start this deep rebuild in a right direction. But for DC, yeah, just as you thought things would kind of turn around the last couple of games where DC has kind of looked respectable in the last couple of games, yeah, this is definitely a huge 180 in terms of what we've seen in the last couple of games. It feels like they're back in terms of what we saw with DC prior to this small good run of form that they had after starting from that Atlantic Cup win against the Red Bulls, where yeah, this team looked like one of the worst team in the Eastern Conference. Now, moving on into the game that I attended, and like I said, I have a lot of fun in this one because yeah, we look at the scoreline in terms of this. Now, I will say this: coming into this game, I was kind of confident that Minnesota can actually pull off this victory against Miami, and there's multiple factors. In terms of the tactical sense, it just feels like this game is going to fit Minnesota very well. Miami is a team that likes to have possession and they like the slow build up. What does Minnesota likes to do? Like possession. They like to hit on the counter attack. What is something that Miami struggled this season? Yeah, they have struggled against teams that play transition, especially with the speed that this team has put. And one thing I don't think I mentioned in the preview as well in this game is the fact that one of the biggest weakness for Miami coming into this game, and certainly for this season, and really the last couple of seasons, is set pieces. They have had a lot of trouble in terms of dealing with, and they're facing against a team that is one of the best team in terms of set pieces, especially from the long throw in. Guess what happened in this game, and guess how Minnesota got most of the goals. Yeah, it's mostly from transition and also set piece moment as well. Now, early on in the first half, as expected, Miami had lots of possession as the Loons were sitting deep trying to do their usual counter game that they've seen throughout the season under Eric Ramsey. I mean, I might as well just call that Ramsey ball, even though that kind of style is very similar to what we see with other more famous coaches that kind of likes to play that sitting deep encounter kind of style as well. I think a great example is the great Jose Mourinho have done that before. Although the way that Ramsey of course set up his team, I don't think it's as negative as what Jose Mourinho team does. It kind of reminds me a little bit more like the Claudio Ranieri Leicester side of teams that just doesn't really like to have possession. They like to hit on the transition and have some speedy guy like the likes of Jamie Vardy as well. And yeah, that's kind of what resembling this Minnesota team this season as well. But in the 11th minute, Shari looked like he got the opening goal of the game, but the goal was disallowed for offside, and it was pretty obvious. I mean, I got a pretty good view of it. I got a pretty good seat, sitting 3 rows in the second deck out Allianzville, and while it was definitely not comfortable dealing with the sun that is, it gave me a great view in terms of the tactical stance and kind of give me a good view in terms of whether a player is onside or not. And I knew that when the ball was play out, I didn't even celebrate when the ball goes in because I just had a feeling that was going to be offside, and indeed it was. But the shots were 1-0 for Miami up to this point because the shot from Ola Shahid doesn't count as a shot. And the possession was 75 to 25 in favor of Miami. Again, that's kind of what I expected. I knew Minnesota was not going to have a lot of possession. In fact, I would be shocked if Minnesota would even have more than 35% possession in this game. But in the 18th minute, Messi had a shot that was deflected and goes wide, and really not much chances. Kind of up to this point, it was a relatively boring game. Miami can't really kind of break down this low block Loons D. Meanwhile, the Loons, every time they try to go on the transition, they can't really quite do so because they're not winning second ball. One of the big thing you need to do when you go on the transition, especially when you try to go over the top and be direct like the Loons are, they need to win those second ball, and they weren't winning it early on. So that being said, in the 32nd minute, they do get the opening goal of the game as Bongi Longwane. He has not scored a goal up to this point. What a game to pick to score his first goal of the game from Carlos Harvey to make it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota. And I think this is the only goal where I can say that it is completely different from what I was expecting in this one, which is for once, the Loons were doing a good job in terms of having some possession on the build-up, and it led to a goal. That is something that you usually do not see Minnesota do this season. It's kind of very un Ramsey like ball this year, but I'll take it. It's 1-0 in favor of Minnesota up to this point. Messi did look to respond, but he hits it right to Dane St. Clair. By the way, if I haven't even mentioned before, the atmosphere at Allianz was absolutely electric. I mean, this was just as good as the atmosphere as we saw against Real Salt Lake, and it's understandable because anytime when you're facing against the goat itself, and you're facing against a Miami team that people have proclaimed them as the super team. It means more for not only the players but also for the fans as well. It feels like it's kind of like an MLS Cup kind of mo- moment for Minnesota to overcome the mighty known as Inter Miami. But in the 42nd minute, Oda Shai would heads it over from the corner. The ref was then told he sucked, and the reason why he was told he sucked is there was this kind of bizarre situation where Boxo got a yellow card because of delaying the restart. And what happened was that as he was about to take the throw in, the referee told him not to take it relatively quick because they weren't ready. So Boxo basically dropped the ball, and then one of the Inter Miami staff basically just kind of passed the ball to him, but it just kind of completely missed him. And by the time when Boxer was looking behind trying to get the ball game, he couldn't find where the ball is. Only for one of the Inter Miami players decided to kind of give the ball and kind of shove it to him, and then the referee feel like, yep, that's delaying a restart. I mean, if that's not an example in terms of certain favoritism, and I had a feeling this was gonna be the case where yeah there were gonna be some favoritism some of the calls that goes in favor of Miami, but I think that that was kind of the most blatant favoritism, and I don't blame the fact that the fans was not very happy about that. In fact, also did make a bit of a comment in the post game conference, which something tells me that comments might get fined from this goal, but up to this point, again, the fans were not happy. And speaking of the fans itself, I thought there was a lot of Loons fan in attendance in this one. I mean, one of my concern was the fact that maybe Allianz is gonna get overrun by Messi fan, and I've seen a lot of Messi jersey throughout the game, but for the most part, I thought in terms of the crowd itself, it might be 80-20 in favor of Minnesota in terms of this game, and I think I only heard like the Messi chant only chant once, and that was after he scored in this game, which is a little spoiler alert. But anyway, in the third minute stop sign, just as we thought we were gonna head to halftime with Minnesota take the lead, they double that lead as Marcanic would score for the second game in a row from Romero and Boxall. So yeah, very rare that kind of situation where you have three defenders combining in the goal scoring and also the primary and secondary assist. But this kind of came from one of those typical long throw in that Minnesota does all the time whenever they get close to the 18-yard box, and Miami just simply didn't deal with this one. I mean, I just had a feeling that was going to be the case because anytime when you put the ball into the box, especially kind of like that long throw is pretty much just a makeshift corner for Minnesota. And knowing that Miami does struggle in terms of dealing with that, it is no surprise that they got caught out in terms of it, and the fact that Markkanen was just kind of completely left unmarked after that flick was in. Yeah, just horrendous defending for Miami. It's something that won't be the last time we will say about this team for the remaining of the game. But yeah, that made it 2-0 heading into the second half. But just 4 minutes into the game, like I said, you knew that the greatest player of all time was going to have something to say in this game, and he does score here from Alba and Allen. And I also thought that as much as I knew it was kind of inevitable that Messi might score against Minnesota, just didn't want it to happen in the 49th minute. I just feel like with this team having a 2-0 lead, you can lock it down. And if Messi is going to score in this one, maybe late in the game when the game is already out of reach, not when Minnesota has the 2-0 lead and has the momentum, and now the momentum is all with Miami. Because again, I've seen this story before. This team, they crater under their adversity. After I said Allende looked to try to tie it, but was deflected right to Dane Sinclair. I mean, road. These next 10 minutes is going to be a big telling point of whether or not if the Loons have shown their resilience for once, or is this going to be like what I've seen early in this season where they crater under the pressure and everything just kind of collapse itself. And I said this season. This is kind of the case for previous years as well. This is why when it was 2-0 in favor of Minnesota heading into halftime, I was still not confident that this team can pull it out. And it was nothing to do with the fact that Inter Miami has that ability to come back like they've shown before, but we've seen this so many times with this Minnesota team. As soon as one goal they let in, this team the mood completely sour and they completely crater. To give them credit in this game, they didn't do that. They actually hold on firm for the most part. Ustari then denied Pereira from close before Alba puts it into the wonder wall, as the shots were only 8-5 for Miami up to this point. So, Minnesota did a really good job at least limiting the chances and still getting themselves back in that defensive shape, even though they pretty much are still defending a lot. I mean, 70 to 28 in terms of possession up to this point. But then in the 69th minute, Minnesota would restore their 2-goal lead, and with the second week in a row, they got the benefit of an own goal as Jello Gun would score the own goal here, and once again, Miami Achilles heel strike again. This came from a set piece. They just cannot get to the ball first when the ball comes into the box. Like when you don't get to their first as a defending team in terms of the set pieces, and you let your opponent flick for the back post, there's gonna be the alarm bells ringing all over. And here, once again, they didn't get to the first ball, and then Wagon, I don't know, did he not realize where he was on the pitch there, because it's almost like he's trying to flick that one over or flick that one behind for another corner. But here, I think he kind of lost track of where he was, because when he tried to do so, he was facing literally directly in front of his own goal, and literally right in front of his goalkeeper as well. And I'm pretty sure Gustavi was probably a little surprised that he was trying to head this one back toward him. Either way, just an absolute mess a moment for Miami and certainly a gift for Minnesota for the second week in a row benefiting from a strange own goal. But that made it 3-1, and then just 2 minutes later, they put this game out of reach. As Robin Lod, he scored from Oloishai and Pereira to make it 4-1 in favor of Minnesota, and it was an absolute banger for Robin Lod, and he needed that one. I mean, this was also a game where we saw players that desperately need a goal finally got one here, and yeah, for Robin Lund and Wande, I'm very happy to see that they finally got their first goal, and let's see whether or not if that can carry the momentum in these next couple of games. Messi did look to respond, but he hits it right to Dane Sinclair. I don't recall one time that Dane Sinclair was under a lot of stress in terms of making the save, and the goal that he gave up to Messi, there was nothing really he can do in that one. But really, as the time winds down, Minnesota, I thought they still haven't let off the gas, and the Loons fans were actually shouting for number 5. They want that fifth goal to score. They want the misery to continue for Miami. All that while Inter Miami, you can clearly see that they're going through the motion. Even some fans in pink started to leave the stands because in the end, it's the biggest loss that Inter Miami have ever suffered with Messi on the pitch. 4-1 beatdown that Minnesota hand to Inter Miami at Allianz Field in this one. The shots in this one, not a lot of shots. 8 shots within a 10 that Miami has. Both team had 5 shots on goal. 2 shots on target for the one that Miami has. 4 shots that was blocked for the none that Minnesota has. And possession-wise, 33% possession compared to 67% possession that Miami has in this game. This is definitely going to go down as one of the most impressive regular season victory that Minnesota has ever had, and I would say probably right up there in terms of top 5 or maybe even top 3 moments that Allianz Field has ever experienced after a Loons win in the regular season. But that being said, as much as this is an impressive win for this team, it's only one win. It's only 3 points. They got a midweek game against Houston, and I think even in the post game press conference, I know the Loons assistant coach Lawrence already said that they're already looking forward to the next game. They don't want to show some complacency, and I'm glad the coaching staff is understanding that. I mean, yes, it's impressive to be in Miami, especially when Messi is there, but you can't have that complacency and have that big letdown, and that's what I'm going to be watching in terms of how they will respond against Houston because I have no doubt that I think they're going to have some letdown against Houston. I have no doubt they're not going to play as good as this. This is probably easily the best game that Minnesota has played this season and maybe for quite some while. I expect that this is not going to how they look every single game, especially against Houston. But if they can at least show maybe half or 3/4 of the effort that they put in this game against Miami, against Houston, there's a chance that they can get all 3 points, especially the Dynamo is a team that is not having a good season. But for Inter Miami itself, yeah, things are looking a little bit dire, and that, yeah, I've heard a lot of people have calling for Montreal heads, and rightfully so because we I kind of knew that coming into the season when they announced Marciano was the head coach of this team. I just had a feeling this was not going to work out for this team. And while in the beginning of the season it looked like it kind of worked out because Miami was still winning games. One of the thing that I've mentioned about Miami and the reason why they're still winning games is they keep getting very lucky in terms of winning these games. Especially they have this kind of voodoo magic where when they give up chances to opposition, their opposition just simply can't capitalize on it. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that in this game they try to do the same voodoo magic against Minnesota, and I would expect that couldn't work against Minnesota because Minnesota has shown before that they cannot put the ball into the back net and have shown that lack of clinical finishing. Yeah, that was not the case in this game. Minnesota, this was probably the most clinical I've seen the Loons done in quite so while, and that I think this is a clear example that as long as you're able to show the clinical finishing and you take the chances that Miami would give because they're going to give you chances. If you can do so, this is kind of the thing that you could see. And I also think that after this game and even these last couple of games, that fear factor I think with Inter Miami is all but gone right now. I don't think teams are going to be fearing them any more even with the goal being there because at the end of the day, with Marciano's making questionable lineups decision and also tactical code decision as well, and the fact that the defense has just completely fallen apart, even as bad as what we saw last year under Tata Martino. I don't think there's a fear factor anymore. I don't think teams are going to fear Miami as they used to have, and that is got to be a huge concern if you're an Inter Miami fans, or even for the bandwagoner as well, because this is supposed to be a team that is supposed to go for an MLS Cup run. It could be a case that they could still do that. They need to get out of this funk because it's looking dire, at least in these last couple of games. Now, moving on in terms of the next game, after I spent almost 16 minutes talking about that game, I'm sorry. I attended this game, so I had a lot to say. I probably should have just do this game as my own review as well. But anyway, now moving on to the next game between the Union and Columbus, and this is another game that coming into this game there was a lot of people that were excited about this game because it's a battle between the top two in the East. This could easily be a matchup we could see in the Eastern Conference final if it gets that far. And I think after this game, it's safe to say that it definitely had that playoff atmosphere. And I'm definitely excited when both of these teams will face off against each other at low Qualcomm Field at the end of the year. Even if one of these teams probably might have a drop off because yeah, the intensity in this game just kind of felt very playoff kind of intensity. Now in the first half, 5 minutes into this game, it looked like the Union got the opening goal as Baribo puts it into the back net. Problem was the flag did not agree with him, so the goal was disallowed for offside. The first shot of the game did see Rick denying Jackson from close before Shabelko would heads it wide from close range. And really, besides that one disallowed goal, I feel Columbus was the better team early on. They were on the front foot and was looking for the lead. Glesnes then tried to chip the keeper from the free kick in his own half, but he puts it wide. I mean, I know Glesnes have scored some banger of his own. I don't think he can score a banger like that. But it's worth of a try, I guess. After all, Arvston would then flash it wide from close before John Jack would hits it right to Schulte. Schulte then tips over a Wagner shot as the Union now all of a sudden have woke up in this game. So after Columbus kind of dominated for the first 20 minutes, I thought the Union kind of woke up and now we're putting pressure to try to get the lead. Sullivan would also try to chip the goalkeeper of himself from his own half, but this time it hits right to Schulte before Chambos will put the wide from long range in the 41st minute. But just as we thought we had to halftime 0-0, the Union does capitalize on the pressure that they put. As Baribo would score from Sullivan and Rick to make it 1-0 in favor of the Union. This came from a simple Route 1 ball that Rick launches to Sullivan, and then Sullivan just kind of play it to Baribo to get the transitional attack. It's not very often you see that this Columbus defense get caught out like that, but give credit to the Union. They took advantage of it, and they have that 1-0 lead heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Vasilev looked to double that lead, but he puts this one over before Rossi missed a free header from close range. It is not very often you see Diego Rossi miss those kind of opportunity, and I think he probably knows that he should have buried that one. Diamante then hits it right to Schulte. I thought it was end-to-end action to begin the second half, but in the 61st minute, Columbus ties the game up as Max Arvston would score from Chambos and Farsi to make it 1-1 in this game. It did not stay tied for long because just a couple of minutes later, Westfield would score his first career MLS goal from Baribo and John Jack to make it 2-1 in favor of the Union, and it was an absolute banger too from Francis Westfield. I mean, if you're gonna score your first career MLS goal, why not score a banger and a goal to remember? And I'm pretty sure that will be remembered for a long time at least in Francis Westfield mind. But in the 66th minute, Sullivan would look for another, but he puts this one wide. Momentum was back with the Union as they were looking for more. Sullivan would then puts it over from long range, and really as the time winds down, the Union they feel like they might have done enough against Columbus. I mean, they did try to put this game to bed, trying to get that second goal. Columbus really wasn't really doing much in terms of creating chances, and you feel like yeah, maybe the Union has done enough to get all 3 points. But if there's one thing you got to remember about Columbus is that you can't count this team out, and that when you don't put away and kill the game off against Columbus, yeah, they're gonna always find a way to score late, even out of nowhere. Because after Uru missed wide from close range, literally almost at the last kick of the game, Sean Suswatsky would score from Rossi and Chambos to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. As Columbus, you can kind of say that they stole a point in this one, as as it ends in a 2-2 draw. Shots in this one, 16 shots for the 10 that Columbus had, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that Columbus had. Both team had 5 shots off target, 5 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession the Union has in this game. Very, very entertaining game. Just had that playoff kind of atmosphere, and also that vibe in this game with the way that how both of these team play. But overall, you got to say Columbus is probably going to be the more happier side, especially them rescuing a point late in this game, and the Union will feel like they let 3 points or at least 2 points slip out of their hand, and this was a big moment for them to get themselves in first place in the Eastern Conference and send a message to the rest of the East that yeah, they might be the team to beat in the Eastern Conference this season. But that being said, I am actually now going to switch the board right away, not actually pause the video, because why not? I've done this a couple of times where I don't need to pause the video to switch the board. I'll just do it on the fly. And the next game we're going to talk about is Orlando and New England. So you talk about an entertaining game. Yeah, this game was so entertaining that I almost ran out of space in terms of writing all the notes. But let's begin by talking about the first shot of the game that happened in the 8th minute in this one. See, Ganago puts it wide from close before Ivasic denied Freeman, but he did allow a rebound, and Ivasic was a little fortunate that he was able to smother it on the second attempt. He then denied Arujo from close, as it was a lively start to this game. Both of these teams were pushing for an opener, and that would kind of be almost a foreshadow of what the rest of this game would look like. Brekalo would then hits it wide from the corner before Campana hits it right to Galese. Ojeda then puts it over from close, as the shots were already 5-3 for Orlando 16 minutes in. Pasalic then puts it over from close, and in the post would deny Arujo from close in the 24th minute, but just a couple of seconds later, Ojeda would score. He scored from Arujo to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando City, and this one also hits the post, but fortunate for Ojeda, it actually went in instead of bouncing off the post. And at least if you're Arujo, a slight consolation is that at least get on the assist chart after he himself got victimized by the post just a moment ago. Ganago did look for a response, but he heads this one wide. But in the 33rd minute, Ojeda would score his second goal. He scored from Jeffer to make it 2-0 in favor of Orlando City. But New England has a quick response, as 5 minutes later, Yusuf would score his first career MLS goal from Fango and Ganago, and then just 6 minutes later, they tie the game up. It's Matt Poster. He scored from Hugh and Fango to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and it was not great set piece defending from Orlando City. Just not great defending in general from Orlando City, which is something that was kind of a theme in this game, and even in New England point as well, because yeah, defense was kind of optional at times in this game, and which is why there was so many chances that were created in this one. But we do head to halftime with the game tied up at 2 apiece. In the second half, Ojeda looked for his Hattie, but he missed wide before Ivasic denied Brekalo as he pushed this one onto the post. Orlando was definitely on the front foot to start the second half. They were looking for the lead back, and they had a chance to do so because a penalty was given to Orlando after VAR deemed that Fofana high boot Gabbard in the box. So this gives a chance for Ojeda to put away the penalty to retake the lead for Orlando. He does exactly that. So he scored the hat trick here to give Orlando City a 3-2 lead. Campana looked to answer, but he hits it right to Galese in the 63rd minute before he puts it over from close range. And all of a sudden, like I said, New England, they look like they're the one to be the aggressive and try to tie it again. And Orlando kind of started to hang on a little bit, which, in a game like this, when it's so open and there's a lot of chances that it's being in, it's probably not a great strategy for Oscar just to sit on this 3-2 lead, because you just kind of had a sense with the chances that New England was going to create it that they eventually is going to tie the game up. Well, first of all, Enrique hits it right to Ivasic in the 76th minute, but then in the 84th minute, New England had a chance to tie it from the spot as well, as a penalty was given to New England after Janssen brought down Ganago in the box. So here comes Carlos Hill, a chance to bury the penalty, and he does exactly that to tie the game up at 3 apiece. Maguire looked for an instant response, but he missed this one high before Enrique thought that it was 4-3 in favor of Orlando City. But yeah, the flag immediately went up in this one because Maguire was in the way of the shot, and he was in an offside position. They didn't even bother going to VAR for this because it was so obvious that Maguire, when he ducked down to try to get away from the shot, he knew. he even had a reaction that he knew that he kind of messed up because he was in an offside position and basically was in the way of the shot. So yeah, the goal didn't count it. It remained free. Diaz would then puts a header that was palmed away by Galese before Pasalic hits one right to Ivicic. Ojeda then had a header that was the deflecting goes behind. And again, both of these teams, they were still pushing late. Keep in mind, there was 10 minutes of stoppage time in this one. It was still end to end, even into the 12th minute of stoppage time, as Brendan By would heads this one wide from close in the 12th minute of stoppage time. And in the end, what an entertaining game this turns out to be. It was a free seesaw affair in this one. The shots in this one, 23 shots compared to 16 that New England has. 8 shots on goal with the 6 that New England has. 7 shots off target with the 3 that New England has. Both teams had 6 shots that was blocked, and possession wise, 47% possession compared to 53% possession that New England has in this game. And like I said, defense definitely was kind of optional, at least in this one. And that's kind of the thing with Orlando City this season, where I just never understand why they are a good attacking team and can score all the goals, and they can't really quite do it on the road as well. Though I'm pretty sure Alquera is not going to be happy with the way that. Well, I mean, he'll be happy with how good the attack was this game again, but he definitely won't be happy of how they defended in this one. And for New England, again, this is kind of the thing that I've that is the reason why this New England team isn't in a resurgence. When you look at how Orlando play in this one, even when they went up 3-2, an old New England team or the New England team from the beginning of the season would never come back in terms of the return. That just shows you how much Caleb Porter has really changed this team for the better, and how that confidence of this unbeaten run that they've been on has really been contagious to a point where they're now almost forgetting how to lose a game and always show incredible fight back to earn themselves a point. And this is why that maybe for once New England might actually did the right thing in terms of not firing Caleb Porter. I mean, I know Caleb Porter was under all sorts of pressure, but it just feels like that. He magically finally found a way, and that magically this team finally click, and now all of a sudden this is a team that could start to become a bit of a dark horse as the season goes along. Because the longer this run goes or for New England, the more that I think people need to start paying attention to this team. With that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is the Red Bulls and the Galaxy. So I forgot to mention in the preview that this was the rematch of last year's MLS Cup, and that's kind of my bad on the fact that I forgot that this was the rematch of last year's MLS Cup. But I'm pretty sure the New York Red Bulls did not forget that this was the rematch of last year's MLS Cup. In fact, yeah, they definitely took it personally when they lost that game against the Galaxy in this one. Though I gotta say, for the Galaxy, I mean, is there a team that has gone through the worst 2 week stretch, or the worst 2 game stretch we have ever seen a club being in? Because just after a week where they lost a game despite allowing a grand total of 0 shot against their opposition, they gave up 7 goals in this game and become the second defending MLS Cup champion to give up 7 goal in a rematch in MLS history. Now, in the first half, the goal galore all started in the 7th minute as Choupo-Moting would score from Frostburg to make it 1-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. I mean, Choupo-Moting pretty much turned back the clock in this game, and same goes for Emo Frostburg as well. But Barry did look for an instant response, but he was denied by Cornell. Valencia then puts it over from long range before in the 16th minute. Frostburg would make it 2-0. He scored for Valencia here to make it 2-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. Just non-existent defending whatsoever from the Galaxy in this point, and that would be the theme pretty much for this game. Like the Galaxy defense, like pretty much their season this year, clearly didn't show up in this game against the Red Bulls. Sofo would then look to try to make it free, but he puts it wide from close, and then McCarthy would deny Sofo from close after just a WTF turnover from the Galaxy in this one. And I already knew that, oh boy, this could get ugly for the Galaxy, because again, this was a game where you can clearly see that the Red Bulls wants to win this one. They want to get revenge for MLS Cup 2024, and especially with how poor the Galaxy have been playing, and how in the first couple of minutes how sloppy that they have. I would not be surprised that this could get ugly. And even when the Red Bulls are up 4 or 5-0, they're not gonna let off. They're not gonna show any mercy after what happened in December in that big MLS Cup game. But in the 24th minute, there was a chaotic sequence where Cornell denied Garces, but he allowed a rebound there, and there was just a couple of scramble to try to get the shot away, and Royce actually had the last shot here, but it was deflected and goes wide. So very lucky for the Red Bulls where they didn't clear their lines there, and they kind of got away with not giving up a goal before Cornell would tip Cerrillo from close range in the 24th minute, and it just kind of feel like maybe the Galaxy have kind of woke up a little bit. They probably would have saw what I wrote, the fact that this could get ugly for them, and say, yeah, let's wake up on the attack end. But in the 31st minute, just because their attack is waking up, their defense pretty much was not waking up in this one because Choupo-Moting would score his second goal from Forsberg to make it 3-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. That would also be the scoreline heading into the second half. And in the second half, it would be 4-0 in favor of the Red Bulls long after, as Emil Forsberg would score a vintage free kick goal to make it 4-0 in this one. Yamane did look to respond, but he missed one in the 52nd minute before Royce would hit one right to Cornell. And really, up to this point, I kind of had a feeling that, yeah, I'm not going to take any more notes because I just had a feeling this could start becoming a rout, and it was. In the 68th minute, it was 5-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. It's Cameron Harper that gets on the goal scoring party list, and it was an absolute gift for him because McCarthy basically cleared this one right to Yangerd, who he actually was or his shot was actually denied by McCarthy, but it was still goal bound, and there was Harper in the right place, right time to put that one away, and just like that, it was 5-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. Cornell then denied Nascimento from close range before Harper looked to score his second, but he hits it right to McCarthy. Nascimento then hits it right to Cornell in the 86th minute. Before in the 88th minute, it would be 6-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. And Younger would score from Bukesh to make it 6-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. And just for good measure, right as the full time whistle about the sound, Yamane would puts it into his own net. I mean, that goal, there is not a goal that really just kind of sums up this game and really sums up the season for the Galaxy. And there's been a lot of those moments, but I feel like it's almost kind of scripted. The fact that how can we make this even more miserable for the Galaxy? And that, yeah, let's add a miserable, a brutal own goal from Yamane where he tried to pass it back, but just completely they got that one wrong. And yeah, just like that, it is a 7-0 win for the Red Bulls against the Galaxy. And it's also kind of hard to believe that this actually has happened before in MLS. Notice how I mentioned that this is the Galaxy is the second team defending MLS Cup champion to lose 7-0 in a rematch of an MLS Cup. That actually happened back in 2001. The Chicago Fire actually scored 7 goals. I forgot what was the team that they were facing. I think it was the Wizard that they were facing, if I'm not mistaken, or DC United, if I'm mistaken, because I think this happened in 2001 or 2000. If it's 2001, I think it's against the Wizard because I think the Wizard won back in 2000, if I'm not mistaken. But nevertheless, it's the second time that has happened in MLS history. The shots in this one actually was pretty close. 21 shots compared to 17 that the Galaxy had. 6 shots on goal compared to 11 the Red Bulls has in this one. 6 shots off target for the 3 that the Galaxy had. 6 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Red Bulls had. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession the Galaxy has in this game. And like I said, I know I don't really have a lot of time to do individual team video because of how busy I'm gonna have when it comes to doing reviews and previews throughout this 3 games and 7 day stretch. But I have a feeling I'm gonna have to make a video about the Galaxy because this is now official that they have become the first MLS team to go the first 12 game of the season without a win. And I know I've already made video about the Galaxy winless run before, most recently talking about which team would be the one that is going to avoid being the last team to not win a game between them and Montreal. But I feel like this time I'm going to have to go deeper dive of the Galaxy and why they're at this stage. And people are definitely going to point in terms of the cap situation and also the MLS Cup tax that they pay. But even with that, I just have a feeling that the more I look at this, it might be more than just because of the cup taxes that they have to pay, and also them being cap crunch. I think there's definitely more to that story because even with that, This team should not be losing 13 games to start the season. Or actually, I'm sorry, not 13, 12 games to start the season. And that, yeah, I'll see if I have the time to basically do a video like that. I'll probably have to, because again, this is pretty historic, though not in the right reason. If you're a Galaxy fan, hoping to become the first MLS Cup or MLS team to start the season 12 games without a win. Now, one team was trying to avoid that fate is Montreal, and the good news for Montreal, they avoided that fate because they got a 1-0 win against NYCFC, and this was probably one of the better attacking performances that Montreal has put this season, and yet it kind of felt like it was not going to happen for them in this game. Now, the first shot of the game happened in the third minute, and it's see Martinez hits it right to see Wasp before Martinez was in on goal again, and he actually rounds the keeper but missed the target after a lightning counterattack. NYCFC was definitely feeling it early in this one, though they weren't really kind of feeling it when it comes to the finishing as well. They were looking for an early lead. And keep in mind, this is a team that is coming off of a big win against Cincinnati. You feel like they could carry that big win into this one, especially against a winless team like Montreal. But in the 21st minute, Freeze would rob Veroni from point blank effort. Yeah, if it wasn't for Matt Freeze, this game probably would have been more ugly than the 1-0 scoreline that would show. But Petresso then hits it right to Freeze in the 22nd minute before Herberts would puts it wide from long range, as Montreal not only have woke up in this game, but they were now pressing hard to try to get the opening goal. Then in the 28th minute, Freeze would deny Owusu after just a bad turnover from NYCFC in their own end. And then Jalen Neal would heads it over from close range. I think this is the debut for Jalen Neal after he's been dealing with some injuries for Montreal. Freeze then denied Veroni from close, and I wrote Freeze is the only reason why this is still 0-0. And this is kind of getting to the point where if you're a Montreal player, you're just kind of almost staring at the heavens, thinking, what do they need to do in terms of scoring a goal? Because this has been one of their best attacking display, and now they're getting goalie by Matt Freeze. But in the 42nd minute, Pereira would miss wide from long range before in the 45th minute we see oh god, oh god, this is kind of embarrassing. I can't really read my whole writing as well, but I think it's on one. I think it was Owusu the one that puts it wide from long range up to this point. But we do head to halftime with the score scoreless between both of these teams, despite the fact that Montreal had a ton of chances in this game. But in the second half, and just like what I said about Toronto, of them kind of going for a goal drive, it turns out that all you need to do is score a quick goal in the second half, and that will relieve it, because in the 48th minute, just 3 minutes in, Prince Owusu would score that crucial goal for Montreal to make it 1-0 in favor of them. And yeah, that one has been coming for a very long time, and it's got to be a huge relief for Montreal, the fact that yeah, they finally got that deserved goal. And this is kind of almost an unfamiliar territory that they found themselves in, because it is not very often this team has taken the lead this season, if any. But in the 51st minute, it looked like they made it 2-0, but the post denied Salit as he was trying to chip this one, and on the second effort, Veroni would hit it onto the roof of the net. Freeze then denies Sealy from close range, as again Montreal definitely feel like the shackle has come off, but they were now looking to press for another and hope that they can solve Freeze again in this one, because up to this point they've only been able to solve him once. Clark would then puts it wide from close before C. Wasp would deny Martinez, and if you could believe, that was the first shot that NYCFC had since halftime. Like they 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 pretty much did not show up in the second half for majority of this game. But in the 74th minute, Herberts would puts it over from close before Baguette would puts it over from long range in the 85th minute, and Montreal was looking to try to put this game away and get their first win. But the question is, will those poor finishing comes back to haunt them? Well, Freeze did have to make one more save here to tip Freeze free kick shot over. But the good news for Montreal is, like I said, NYCFC, they pretty much didn't show up for majority of the second half, and they definitely didn't show up late in this game as well. And in the end, Montreal avoided the fate of joining the Galaxy, becoming the first two MLS team to start the season 12 games without a win. And the shots in this one, 22 shots compared to 9 that NYCFC had. Now, unlike Toronto, I have seen times when Montreal has had a lot of shots in a game, and I've also seen where they haven't been clinical in terms of this game. But the good news for them is NYCFC was definitely not feeling it in this one. 2 shots on goal compared to 8 that Montreal has. 8 shots off target compared to 5 that NYCFC had. 2 shots on block compared to 5 that Montreal has. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Montreal has in this game. And just as you thought that NYCFC kind of turned a corner, or at least their fans were thinking that was the case, yep, they're back in terms of a tough spot that they're in, and I think the pressure is now once again back on Pascal Janssen. Maybe even harder now because there's no excuse losing to a winless team, especially to a team that hasn't won their first 11 games and gave up that many shots to a Montreal team that, even though I know they have had these kind of games before, it is still embarrassing in an NYCFC perspective. Especially this team needs to once again heavily rely on their home form, knowing that their road form this season, just like last year, has been absolutely abysmal. Now, moving on into the last game on this board, and Cincinnati and Austin FC. So this feels like a very typical Cincinnati game. Another one goal victory, though they got the early goal in the 12th minute as Evander gets the goal 12 minutes into this game, and it was the first shot of the game as well. And while it was definitely a great goal, I think scored by Evander from outside the box, where in the world was the closing down from Austin? Like, Evander is one of the most dangerous long range shooter in this league. So the fact that they did not close him down like that, Evander said, "Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just gonna pick a corner and score there." And just like that, Cincinnati take a 1-0 lead. Denke did look for another, but he was denied by Stuvert as the momentum was definitely with Cincy early on. They were trying to press for another. Vasquez would then miss wide from close before the post would deny Evander of another banger, but on the rebound, Santos tried to put it in, but he puts this one wide. Suver then denied Denke from close in the 21st minute before he puts it over from close range in the 26th minute. It was all Cincinnati up to this point, but we do head to halftime with Cincinnati only getting that 1-0 lead because they haven't really shown that clinical finishing, and that would come back to haunt them immediately in the beginning of the second half because a penalty was given to Austin as Teenage Hadabi handballed this one. So here comes Brandon Vasquez. This must be emotional for him to come back to Cincinnati and score in front of what used to be his own fans. But yeah, he scored here to make it 1-1 in this one, and of course, he. If you're a Cincinnati fan, that has to be bittersweet. Of course, seeing Vasquez very well loved in the Cincinnati fan base, but of course scoring the equalizer there. And to Vasquez's credit, he definitely did not celebrate in that moment, especially against the team that kind of is the reason why he's been very successful, at least in the early part of his career. But lately, yeah, it's been a little bit rough going for him, especially from open play. But in the 57th minute, Denke looked to answer, trying to retake the lead, but he was denied by Stuver on the header. You know who was the story in this game? Brad Stuver. It looked like this was one of those games, isn't it, for him to try to steal one for Austin, like what we've seen before. But in the 58th minute, Vasquez looked to try to get the lead, but he missed this one wide before Evander would hit one that was right to Stuver on the chip. In the 72nd minute, Anunga would miss wide from close range. I kind of thought that this game was starting to become a little up for grabs because both of these teams were getting some good chances. But in the 76th minute, Cincinnati gets the lead back as Dado Valenzuela would score a banger here from Evander and Engel to give the lead back for Cincinnati. And then he's trying to score another one not long after. But this one was robbed by Stuver because, yeah, Brett Stuver was definitely on it in this one. Evander would then puts it over from the free kick in the 5th minute of stoppage time, but in the end, Cincinnati hold on to get the 2-1 victory over Austin in this one. Shots in this one, 18 shots with 11 that Austin had, 7 shots on goal with the 2 that Austin had, 2 shots off target with the 3 that Cincinnati has, 5 shots that was blocked with the 6 that Austin had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Austin has in this game. And while, it was definitely not a vintage performance by Cincinnati. And again, I'm pretty sure Cincinnati fans wish that this team doesn't win these kind of one goal game and kind of give their fans a little bit of a stress out kind of thing, trying to hold on to this one goal game. Hey, Pat Nolan, he knows how to win one goal games and know how to get resources what they needed to. And mind you, Cincinnati fans kind of some so at least some of the new ones have forgotten how much this team used to struggle in terms of closing out game, but they've done a really good job in that. It's another one goal victory for them in this one, but Yeah, for Austin, yeah, it's not going so well this season, isn't it? I mean, they did show at least a little bit of fight back in this one, but overall, it's just going to be ends up as another loss as they once again tumble down the Western Conference. I mean, this has been a really rough stretch that Austin has gone through, and it doesn't help the fact that they got more road games coming their way as we go. I mean, they're going to play a lot of tough teams on the road and even at home for the remaining part of at least May, that is, because they are now in probably one of the toughest part of their schedule. Oh, also, I forgot to mention the stats in this one. Shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 11 that Austin had, 7 shots on goal compared to 2 that Austin had, 2 shots off target compared to 3 that Cincinnati has, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 6 that Austin had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Austin has in this game. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review for all of these games, at least the first 8 games. That is, tomorrow we'll look at the last 7 games, and hopefully that review will be a little bit shorter because again, I think I do kind of feel a little bit sorry the fact that I went 16 minutes by talking one of the review. I try to make sure that all these games will have a fair amount of time. Although I say that sometimes when it comes to talk about my favorite team, it might go a little bit longer, but yeah, I think that 16-minute me talk about Minnesota and Inter Miami, I probably should have just done a separate video on that game since I attended. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these first eight games that happened in match week number 12. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.